So what I was going to talk about today is we're starting to reopen. We're in phase 1, and phase 2 is probably 2 to 3 weeks away, maybe 2 weeks away. And the big question, one of the big questions that looms is what is going to be the state of our major malls and retailers. We are wondering, what the collateral damage the lockdown will have caused based on the inability of malls around the nation, not just the Palisades Center, not just the shops at Manuet, but with the malls having been unable to pay their mortgage debt down for the last 2 months, one has to worry and wonder, where we're going to be in June, July, and through the rest of the year. For example,
before you even go on that, Tina, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Over the weekend, we saw on TV mostly peaceful demonstrations, but lots of looting and rioting, particularly of main streets in Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Chicago,
Atlanta,
everywhere around the country. Even smaller cities like Rochester and Albany, experiencing difficulties with what's been going on. I understand that. But you also see, as to your point, lots of malls getting hit and looted and ransacked, etc. They've been mostly empty for the most part anyway over the last couple of months due to the coronavirus situation. I'm going to throw out a question here, and tell me what you think of this. Are companies that have these malls in this situation that have been left for nothing since coronavirus, that are now being looted and damaged and destroyed, do they collect insurance now? And are they in a better spot because of these riots than they were had just COVID slowly bled them to death?
Well, okay. My take on what's been looted, I've been pinned to the TV too, because it's just, it takes us back to footage that most of us only remember. I grew up in the '60s. We remember those burning cities, but I think mostly from having seen them later on as reminders of that moment in time. So here we are again in what is most horrific time in this country for most of us. From what I've seen, it's not been the big enclosed monolithic malls that have been the victims of the lootings and the burnings. It's been street level stores, some in very upscale places like the Promenade in Santa Monica, and others in some of the hardest hit sections of Minneapolis, where barbershops, a whole man's life, are burned to the ground. I think that the malls, just because of their physical structure and because they're not generally the site of where people are protesting, have been more insulated, but some of the big box stores that might line the Promenade, for example, in Atlanta and in Santa Monica and in Atlanta, those stores will have some sort of insurance. But that's not going to what I was going to explain before is that, and it's just so emblematic, I think, of what we're going to see all around the country. The Mall of America, which is the largest U.S. shopping center, had missed 2 months of payments, April and May, on their mortgage, $1.4 billion. I'll repeat that, $1.4 billion in commercial mortgage-backed security. Just like the Palisades Center, which missed also, April and May. And from what I've heard, there's a very good likelihood that they're not going to be paying the June mortgage either, even though perhaps they'll be open again by mid-month. But with many retailers probably going dark. And also the whole, movie theaters and gyms and entertainment sector still not able to open until phase 4, whenever that comes in, which maybe looks like it's closer to July. So this becomes just a question of sustainability. If these malls are going to be 3 months, if you were 3 months in arrears on your mortgage, you know where that would be heading. You would starting to be looking at either foreclosure or bankruptcy, and these scale this up, and you're talking billions of dollars.
Right, but I also don't employ thousands of people and have shops that help people buy things either.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying that. Yeah, and also, the Mall of America is owned by the members of the Jermezian family, and that's the group that owns the American Dream Mall in New Jersey.
Right.
In Rutherford. So, we're just, the question is that yes, we might start to be reopening, but has the collateral, I'm really posing a question, has the collateral damage gone so deep that malls, can they really spring back? Can they become viable again? And anybody who tells you that they have the answer is lying. You can put a spin on it and say that there's pent-up demand and people want to get back to shopping. You could listen to more pessimistic views that say, well, people are going to be uncertain and, the social distancing and all the rest of it is not going to be an equivalent experience. There's more fear. We just don't know. We're looking at just this great uncertainty, a time of incredible uncertainty. And now, like you say, with these riots and with looting and with such psychological unrest that we are, suffering in this country, I think the prognosticators have a real challenge on their hand to be able to see where we're heading with everything. I've been out and about this last week and over the weekend, and my sense is particularly because the weather is warm, people just want to be out and about. They want to figure out a way to stay safe, and then you have other people who are very, very defiant, and you see them in clusters and you see them without masks. I don't know if this is a divide or whether it's an individual decision, but I think overall there's a tentativeness. I don't think that we've grown to believe that the virus has gone away, and that's another thing that we'll be tracking. We've lost 500 people here in Rockland County, 20,000 people in New York State, and over, as you know, over 100,000 in the country. So it's pretty unsettling times, for sure.
Other than that, you got any good news? Or
good news, let me think. What did we... Well, we wrote a nice story last week about Rivertown Film, and we've done a lot of these kinds of pandemic pivot stories. So Rivertown Film has always been a staple for film buffs and for people who want to see foreign films and indie films and independent films, and it's a very strong organization, and so unable to show their films, in a group setting, they've migrated online, so they're putting all their films and discussions with the filmmakers online, and the Wild and Scenic Film Festival did the same in Suffern, where we would normally play at the Lafayette, and they did that to success. I'll tell you, there is some interesting, there is a glimmer here, which is that I talk to businesses all the time, every day, and what I'm hearing is that this pandemic has forced people to just rethink how they do things, and I'm already sensing that there's a lot of innovation and efficiency that may just come out of this pandemic, and it's more than just the people will work from home and that's sufficient. I've heard people just talk about all kinds of ways where people we go along, we're complacent, we do the same thing over and over again, we're habitual. Suddenly this something has finally upended us to the point where we have to step back and say, wait a minute, how can I do this differently? And I think that a lot of interesting innovation is going to spring from that. So we also had a story about, I just remembered, I haven't been on the radio for 2 weeks. We had a story people should take a look at. It was about a company called iPostal One, and this is about digital mailboxes. And it's just, there are just new ways that we're going to be thinking about how we function as business people and in life in general. And so, if I have to find a silver lining, it's that as human beings, we respond to crisis and we respond to terrible things in a productive way, generally speaking. And I guess that's the note I would leave on, and that is probably even going to be the case with, if we find our malls darkened, they will be reinvented one way or the other. It may take years, it may take a decade, but one way or another, it is human nature to fill a vacuum and to reinvent when the opportunity is there. So.
Okay, I hope you're right. I mean, I'm sure they're just not going to go away. They're not going to take them apart and put high-density housing in there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I literally think that you could not, knock down, the Palisades Center. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily going to go away. But even, prior to this pandemic, the whole buzz was entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. We need entertainment. That's what the mall needs. Well, now you've got a situation where the entertainment business has been absolutely devastated by this pandemic, and people can't be in close contact with each other. So that salve, is not necessarily going to be the one that takes them into the future and saves them from another month or 2 or 3 of not paying the mortgage. So it's just,
I have ongoing entertainment in my house, so I don't even miss entertainment. And I should charge for it.
Yeah.
I got two grandchildren, 18 and 10, who are fighting all the time. The 18 acts like 10, and the 10 thinks he's 22 or something, and it's just hysterical.
Yeah,
I'd like to market it.
Well, that's what I mean. See, everybody's thinking just a little bit differently these days. And maybe it's painful. A wake-up call is painful. I think that we're all in a discomfort zone for sure. I know that my general feeling is just one of not being settled. Everything feels different. Everything feels off-kilter. But this is the time when I think people are most likely to create and change course and seek for something that's better. So,
okay. Well, anyway, we'll get back to you next week.
All right. I believe in human nature. That's the upside.
And I believe in the tooth fairy. And with that, we'll talk to you next week.